I'm always very passionate and excited about. But obviously, due to health and safety concerns this year, the Maryland chapter opted to take the event online into this virtual panel discussion in lieu of the traditional built parking day event. So we're excited today that we were able to collaborate with the Maryland ASLA chapter and AIA Baltimore to bring this event online and discuss ways that Parking Day has really served as a model for cities who are looking to provide safe programming and activity space in our urban districts in response to COVID-19. So one just quick chapter announcement that I wanted to make. We will be having a virtual awards gala this year, and all ticket sales and donations will go toward our Maryland ASLA Student Scholarship Program. So that event will be virtual on October 8th. We have a keynote speaker, Dr. Robert Czar of Park RX America, and all of the event details can be found on the Maryland ASLA website. Again, just for formality's sake, we have our learning objectives. For those of you who will be seeking credit, either AIA continuing education or LACES continuing education, you will find a link in the chat on Zoom, or if you're watching this on Facebook Live, you'll find a link in the chat on Facebook for the sign-in that you'll need to sign in on, and also the quiz. So make sure, just housekeeping items, you follow up with those links before at the end of the event. So we'll go ahead and jump in with our panelists. We have 3 panelists today. We have Erik Evans, Jennifer Goold, and Anna Dennis, excuse me. Erik will be our first speaker. He's the Executive Director of Downtown Annapolis Partnership, the Annapolis Arts District, and the Inner West Street Association. So I will go ahead and hand it off to him.
There we go. Good morning, everyone. I'm Erik Evans with the Downtown Annapolis Partnership. We're a state-designated Main Street program. We support small businesses, residents, and historic preservation. I also am the Executive Director of the Annapolis Arts District, a state-designated program that drives economic growth through the arts. In Annapolis, we're lucky to have a large arts community for a city of our size. I'm also the Executive Director of the Inner West Street Association. It's a business and resident group that promotes West Street and downtown Annapolis mostly through events. And I also do some work with the Four Rivers Heritage Area and the Chesapeake Children's Museum. I am an independent contractor with all these organizations. So in a typical year, I manage and consult on between 30 and 40 events, including the First Sunday Arts Festivals that happen 7 times a year, the Chocolate Binge Festival, Annapolis Restaurant Week, 3 different Midnight Madness shopping events that are held in December, and 17 Dinner Under the Stars events in Annapolis. I also consult on New Year's Eve events in Annapolis and several others. I also spend a lot of time behind the scenes, out of the spotlight, building partnerships and bridges between businesses, local government, and residents to find ways to make our city even better. This, a lot of times, would be networking sessions, and this year it's moved a lot to doing virtual meetings. So this year when COVID first hit, much of our focus at the very beginning was how to save our restaurants. Downtown Annapolis has 80 food service businesses, and all but one of those 80 are small businesses. When COVID shut down businesses, the mayor gave me a call and he told me he wanted to roll out a Dinner Under the Stars event that I had brought to the city and use it as a model to help save restaurants all across our city. He also told me he wanted to be one of the first cities to roll this out as soon as the governor gave permission to reopen restaurants.
She did.
So what is Dinner Under the Stars? About 60 years ago, I brought the concept to Annapolis. The idea was to fill a pretty street with alfresco dining, add some live music, dancing, some ambient lighting, and market as an upscale food event in a casual setting for romantic evenings out, a place where people could come and celebrate milestones and anniversaries, birthdays, etc. A group of 6 restaurants agreed to the concept on West Street, and they're just outside the main tourism area, about a block off of Main Street. And they decided to give the idea a chance. And we selected Wednesday evenings during the summer. Originally, we were doing 13 Wednesdays, and then we increased it to 17 Wednesday nights because it was so popular. In the first year of doing it, we had almost 3 million social media views that were all organic, and over 1,000 people showing up each night to dine outdoors. You needed to get a reservation months in advance if you wanted to eat at any of the restaurants. So with COVID, we knew we're going to have to reinvent and figure out how to make it roll out on a nationwide basis. We had to create plans on how to close all the streets, close parking lots for dining, create parklets, how to reroute parking, permits, inspections, management, rerouting transportation, public detours, how emergency responses would services would react, public safety messaging about wearing masks and social distancing. And that really meant that we had meetings with every city department, and a typical phone call we would have, conference call would have 30 to 40 city employees on it. Most of them were working from home. They were reluctant to bring out one of these events citywide. Most of them did not feel safe even themselves being out, but we knew the public, if we did it right, would come out and we could find a way to do it safely. And the best way to do, take a crowd this size, as you see in the pictures, is to spread them out over multiple days with our thought so that we would have less issues. So this is kind of the new format of what it looked like. So when the governor said that we could reopen, he mentioned Annapolis in his speech, saying that Annapolis was a town that knew how to expand out into the streets to do outdoor dining. And within a week, we had restaurants expanding into the streets citywide. Some were done with street closures, as you see here. Some of the streets have been permanently closed during the pandemic for outdoor dining. Some are only on select days. Some are only select hours. Some are reserved to parklets or parking lots. Some of the main concerns that the city staff had when we rolled them out was how does the fire department have access, and the Department of Public Works had concerns about the safety of diners outside. We ended up doing barricades, mostly that were plastic, filled with water. We also had some anti-terrorism barricades on some of the streets. Emergency services also wanted accurate maps so they would know how to get around town. So this is another view of West Street's outdoor dining after COVID. This is a picture of Maryland Avenue in downtown Annapolis with outdoor dining. This is market space right behind the market house down by City Dock. They had both sections where City Block was closed, and the bottom of the screen you can see where there's a parklet that was set up. Main Street. This is the bottom of Main Street. And again here with Main Street. As soon as we started to roll this out, feedback started rolling in. We had those who were huge supporters. We had haters, as you have with every event. We even had some people who were switching their minds from week to week, whether they liked the event or not. We held regular Zoom meetings the first month. I think we had 3 in June that had between 60 and 90 businesses on the call that were all concerned with having outdoor dining, because of fears of COVID. How does it affect my business? How does it affect traffic? How does it affect parking? And still to this day, city staff has a weekly call that typically has about 30 people on a call to address any concerns that may have come up. Retail versus restaurants, we learned quickly that they all have different needs. Parking is always one of Annapolis's favorite subjects. I think a lot of the people who live here have a suburban mindset of where you should be able to park very close to your destination versus an urban environment. People are more likely to want to walk. We realize that customers shop opposite hours when they're dining. So just because the street is jam-packed with people dining does not mean during those same hours that retail is busy. We also quickly learned that some restaurants are much more carry-out. And again, parking and quick turnover parking is very important for those restaurants. So we've had to do some modifications from that. Some of the modifications we made is we made our parking garages free, to encourage people to park in the garages during dining events. We designated some parking just for carry-out or curbside pickup. A lot of focus on some short-term on-street parking. We created some residential-only parking areas. We converted some of the roads that had been closed, like Main Street was originally all closed. You see on this picture here, it now has a really long parklet where the roads remains open. We also had a lot of feedback from customers who came and visited that if you have an area that's closed and not being fully utilized, it looks like a dead zone. And we had that where we didn't have restaurants when we had closed some of the blocks. And that made parklets more popular than having a street closed. We also had to deal with communication. Everyone wanted to have an input on the process. Everyone wanted to be notified of any changes. We had to relocate loading zones. And we had an issue with public moving barricades, whether it was a drunk or a car bumping it, but making sure that there was someone who could respond to fix a barricade that got bumped or moved.
What are you supposed to be doing? Watch your chair.
We also learned through the process that we didn't have enough shade. So in the afternoon, when it was very sunny, the restaurants would clear out. So some of them went from having pretty little umbrellas to putting up tents that are not near as pretty. We've also had some problems with wind catching tents or some of the umbrellas through the process. We've also noticed that street lighting can make a difference at nighttime. Either the street lights can be too bright, or it's in an area that's not lit well, and maybe ambient lighting needs to be added. We started off with no decor in the areas. Some of the restaurants have now added their own decor. Sometimes they clash with their neighbors, sometimes it meshes well. So that all kind of makes the difference. Show you a video snippet here real quick of dinner under the stars and some of the businesses' feedback. Oops, backtrack here.
I'm doing a webinar with AI. Is this coffee?
That kind of gives you a little bit of idea of what it is like. So it's been highly successful, and people who've done the best have had common marketing, shared the music. They've had security out to deal with urban issues. They've done some urban decor, and they've had shade. Has all made a big difference. So thank you guys for your time. This is a picture of a parklet that we've had in Annapolis for several years on a more quiet side street. Kind of give you an idea, they all kind of look a little different throughout our town. And I believe next up we have Jennifer Goold, who's the Executive Director of Neighborhood and Design Centers. So thank you guys for your time.
Thanks so much, Eric. That was great. Can everyone hear me? Let's get a quick check. Somebody give a thumbs up. Eric, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I'm here today from the Neighborhood Design Center. We're Maryland's community design center. We're a nonprofit based in Baltimore. And we offer pro bono and contractual design services to support investment in low and moderate income communities, as well as support community vision for redevelopment. And I'm NDC's ED. I'm here today to talk about Design for Distancing, which is the City of Baltimore's program to support reopening small business on Baltimore's Main Street through investment in utilizing the public realm to expand small business operations to the outdoors during COVID-19. This is a program of the Mayor of Baltimore, Mayor Jack Young, and is being implemented in partnership between the Baltimore Development Corporation and the Neighborhood Design Center. This program has a few pieces to it that you may be aware of if you've seen us on the interwebs. The project was created pretty much as the brainchild of BDC initially, with some support from Bloomberg Philanthropies on the idea side. And then BDC and NDC fully fleshed it out. We started with a design brief on how to create safe and supportive use of the public realm to bolster small business practices in the urban environment through COVID-19. And that design brief was developed in partnership with the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, local agency partners in the city of Baltimore, small business leaders, and the design community to come up with a balanced strategy that would protect public health while allowing the public to support small business in the public realm. We put out a competition call for the design and general public to come up with ideas of how they would envision bringing that design brief to life in our small business environments. We got over 170 submissions for that, and the stakeholder group that developed the design brief recommended 10 top designs to be included in a public-facing pattern book that's available on our website, designfordistancing.org. And then those recommendations were considered and finalized by the BDC. And so we've put out that guidebook that's really, for anyone in the world to use, to think about ideas for enlivening the public realm to support small business during COVID-19. And then the next stage of this is a design build. We're working in 18 main streets and past and present main streets, arts districts, and local business districts across Baltimore City, east to west, north to south, all types of districts. The BDC is investing in projects that are a partnership of a design build team and community leadership, whether that's the Main Streets manager, the business district manager, or a coalition of business owners where neither of those are present, to identify a location to invest in an opportunity in the public space to support continuation of small business through COVID-19. And we saw, even prior to Design for Distancing, that small business were coming up with, creative strategies to allow their business practices to continue, whether that's queuing at the grocery store, whether that's queuing for a snowball, whether that's getting carry out, whether that's waiting outdoors as your laundry runs, whether that's getting your hair cut on the sidewalk, whether that's picking up your dinner curbside at the end of the day. That the small business community in Baltimore is very robust, and the general public is quite dedicated to them, whether out of necessity, because that is your only way to get local food or services like your laundry or haircut, or out of creativity, that people love the character of our small businesses, and they love seeing friends, family, neighbors out on the sidewalk, and want to continue those very important aspects of their daily lives. So as I mentioned, the stakeholders for this program are Johns Hopkins University's Bloomberg School of Public Health, Baltimore City agencies, retail district leadership, business owners, and designers and makers, all coming together to put forward these solutions and support our community. And so the Ideas Guidebook is a digital guidebook available at designfordistancing.org for download. All those great concepts that were put forward by design teams nationally and internationally are captured there and are available for anyone to utilize. And then we are now moving into the implementation phase. And so people that are local to Baltimore can go actively participate in this project. We still are having build days. You can reach out to me and I can connect you if you want to volunteer on a build day, or you can just go out and enjoy these spaces. I think we see here the ones that are getting finished up right now. Pickle, PIKL, local design firm in Baltimore, worked with both the Market Center District and the Hollins Market District, one doing a really creative open space project in Bromo for when we can do some more distance small events starting up, and then Hollins to utilize the market space as well as the surrounding retail and restaurant spaces. Station North, that main block on the 1700 block of North Charles, where the Charles Theater is, you can now dine outdoors. And then there's the parking lot across the way has been painted also for when things hopefully loosen up enough that we can have some small events again. And then also I see Brooklyn, there's a brand new amazing barbecue joint in Brooklyn, and that's some spaces to support them as well. But there'll be spaces popping up on Pennsylvania Avenue, near the Old Town Mall, Bel Air, Edison, Hamilton, Lauraville, all our favorite retail districts will soon have pop-ups. And so again, these resources are available for you to use, create your own space, support your local business and DIY it out, or find a way to join us for a build day. We'd love to have you involved. Also, please, as you're using these spaces, share the work on the internet and really celebrate all the great work of our local small businesses, as well as the work of our great local design thinkers and makers. So I want to talk just a little bit about, Parking Day was really founded for us to have a profound consideration of what our public realm is for and who it's for. And I think that COVID-19 really drives home those initial philosophies of Parking Day. I think we should really consider whether we should be committing a huge portion of our public realm towards storage of private property, whether the people that are privileged enough to own personal automobiles should dominate the public realm in every neighborhood. And I think our opportunity here to take over more of that space in order to support our daily needs and the needs of small businesses during COVID really gives us this moment where we can look in a more profound way at the original concepts of Parking Day about who the public realm is for and why. I think that we can all see as we step back from all commuting quite so much that there are impacts on our environmental system to be so dependent on personal automobiles, and that when we take many of them off the street, we can see a vast variety of opportunities for how to utilize that space. And then I think we can also recognize that that we're failing the people that are in communities without access to personal automobiles, and that are now having restricted access to transportation systems, as the reliance on fares for those transportation systems means that the people who need them most now have less access to the main reason that those roadways should exist, which is to provide necessary transportation to all people in a city. Additionally, I think the COVID-19 really gives us the opportunity to think about our local business networks and how our public realm can utilize supporting all communities through that transportation system. That we've all become very reliant on delivery systems. Not everybody has credit cards to use those delivery systems. Not everybody has the means to shop for everything that they need off the internet, and we really need to make sure that we're strengthening and supporting our local business networks so that we can be resilient in moments of crises. If we don't keep those local business networks strong, we're going to face crises that are far worse in terms of supporting the people that need it most in the future. And finally, as we all look to these early days of all working to school at home and not being able to move about the city and get to our schools and businesses, the digital equity crisis is also coming to the fore, and really thinking about the ways that we can be using our public realm to expand access to digital equity. I think is going to be a critical step for the future as well. So I'm thrilled to see Baltimore move into the space of reallocation through this crisis. I love seeing the people that are joining together to do these projects. It's just incredible. The design community, the small business community, very, very powerful. both advocates for doing great work, as well as able to just get out there and get the work done in a very quick and meaningful way. I can't wait to see how this all adapts over the winter. All the projects are going to have permits to remain up until June, but I really hope that we learn from these impacts and look to make as many of the ones that are successful more permanent. So I'd just like to end with that question and look forward to talking to you more. And there's all the fun places where you can see. The Instagram site is so fun. Watching, you get a lot of views into watching everybody do their build days and see the projects in action. So I do definitely encourage you all to check it out.
Can people hear me now? Great. Thank you so much, Jen. It's really great to see the results of the design for distancing being implemented now. It's incredible the things that are being revealed by the pandemic, and really glad that the Neighborhood Design Center is at the forefront of making things better for people in less fortunate situations. So my name is Anna Dennis. I'm a senior associate with senior associate with Design Collective. We are an architecture, interior architecture, landscape architecture, urban design, planning, environmental graphics firm in downtown Baltimore in the power plant building normally, but during COVID times, a lot of us are home. So thank you all for joining us today. So just to kind of bring us to the design side, I'm not sure who all is exactly in the audience today, but I imagine there's quite a few designers. Hopefully there's some other folks from other disciplines as well. When we saw the Design for Distancing competition publicized, we were so excited. First of all, we had been practicing for at least 8 years and participating in Parking Day. But we were very much interested in approaching the design challenge that was presented by these entities, the Neighborhood Design Center and Baltimore Development Corporation, to help to solve, issues of now. As landscape architects and architects, we are always interested in sort of reimagining and designing underutilized public open space. So when the design competition first came out, about half of the studio, probably about 25, 30 people, attended a group discussion about what does everyone want to do for design for distancing. We're so excited about this. There's so much energy around it. And what happened is that we ended up kind of breaking into 3 different teams and creating 3 separate approaches, and seeing the guidebook that the Neighborhood Design Center and others have shared now, we see a lot of commonalities in the approaches. How designers are looking at this, providing sort of different stages of implementation, different ways of addressing different retail and restaurant types, providing ADA access, all these different things. So the first scheme that we had come up with was sort of architecturally led by some talented people in our office. We called it the Balti Box. And so this first scheme sort of starts with kind of you're able to provide these innovations just in the parking lane, similar to what we would do for Parking Day. So anything from modular elements that are a little bit more heavy duty, providing different seating options and vending options to sort of out of the bag market tents integrated along the curbside. And so I'll go into more detail on the other options as well. So building on the sort of the Balti Box theme, looking at more of like a street closure approach, we went to this sort of the market scheme where some neighborhoods that may have more retail on Main Street could potentially do street closing, similar to what Erik was describing in Annapolis, and similar to a lot of the sort of recommendations in the design guidebook. We're able to integrate things like ground cover, stickers, graphics, to help guide these public safety requirements, and also implementing some temporary things like stages and using sort of modular elements like the jersey barriers and wood pallets, as well as shipping containers, which aren't necessarily easy to come by, but they're definitely something that can be put into a back of a pickup truck and moved around fairly easily with a few steps. It's a lot of work to get these things in place, of course, but also adding some adaptations to those so that they're usable for different modes. And then, of course, the all-important shade incorporated into open space is incredibly important. So the art walk concept that we developed as well integrated some ground level graphics that would be opportunities for local designers to, local artists to have paid work during this time, which may be difficult to find. But a lot of what we were thinking about in this implementation as well is, the design for distancing is giving, the world a resource, but thinking also about ideas that we could show to small businesses that, creating these sort of care packages for small businesses that could have sort of smaller integrations of different elements like hand sanitizer stations, rolls of tape, things like that. So a lot of these things we would see implemented, but a business may feel like they, may not have the resources or don't have the actual physical space in front of their restaurant. So thinking about sort of different scales of how that could be applied was a big part of our discussion. And of course, like I was saying before, in preparation for design for distancing, we were so excited to apply sort of some principles and design implementations that we had done previously, such as work that we've done with the Downtown Partnership of Baltimore in the past. And I'm sure everyone is very familiar with this implementation of shipping containers on site, but the really nice thing about the 100 Light Street Plaza box, which is still in place today, is it gives the Downtown Partnership a presence at an underutilized hardscape area in downtown. The nice thing was that we were able to continue the energy of a renovation that we had done to the massive paving area in the plaza just adjacent to it. And so that provides a nice storage area for the Downtown Partnership to support programming like their Light Street Plaza Farmers Market. Then we've also worked with them to help to reactivate public space and support their programming in Preston Gardens. They've started doing yappy hours during COVID even at Preston Gardens. So definitely wanting to support programming in outdoor space is important right now. And one of the most exciting things that we've gotten to work with the Downtown Partnership of Baltimore on was the parklet. So the work that we did with them to support them with 100 Light Street and the farmers market, they approached us wanting to expand the opportunities for downtown restaurants to provide outdoor seating. So of course, this was pre-COVID. This was back in, I think, 2017 when we were approached by them. And we came up with sort of an IKEA-esque parklet that could be deconstructed and reused. So it would be sturdy, it would be flexible in placement with movable tables and chairs, and it would also be smaller than a parking space, so that would allow there to be some barricading somewhat with planters along the roadway. So it was really fun to work on this project, pre-COVID. And we are happy that now this is something that the Downtown Partnership actually is able to use, and it is in high demand. So prior to, the last 6 months, the process that we had gone through with them was, we were approached to do the design. We worked through some concepts. The Downtown Partnership found a fabricator and, determined a budget, all these things, and figured out what kind of maintenance and setup they would need. And that whole process, for various reasons, took almost 2 years, which, looking at it now, it's amazing that there's been so much energy and movement to make things happen so much more quickly. It's much more urgent now. And even when the parklet was actually built and available for retailers and restaurants, there were some challenges that they saw with actually implementing the use of it on some retail corridors. The staff may not have had, the restaurant didn't have the staff who was trained to go to these outdoor spaces. There's a lot of things that we hadn't thought about in the process. And we worked with them to create an ADA accessible platform, and that created some challenges with heavy movement and installation. But we're happy to say that it is in high demand now, and talking with them in this time, they say that they've had about 100 parking days in the last months that the governor has sort of released people to be dining in these sorts of situations. I will say that they did have to make an alteration to the parklet. They had to remove the middle table to allow that 6 feet of space. But once things return back to normal, I think they will be able to revert it back. So sort of circling back to parking day, this reclamation of space, this opportunity for sort of unscripted social interaction, the parking day idea started back in 2005. In San Francisco, it started with just a paid meter for 2 hours. But in implementing park spaces in Baltimore, that turns into a day-long thing. So the really nice thing about our office is that we're able to take from multiple disciplines and do a grand collaboration. We have a lot of people who are excited about converting open space in this way. So at the beginning of each of these parking day, as soon as we are aware that September is anywhere close, we all get together, and there's a core group of people who put a lot of energy into the design and the construction of these spaces. And we always make sure that we're using materials that are recycled, or either reusing materials, or we're able to pass them along to another entity, donate them. We want to activate open space, have the opportunity to have discussions with people. And we missed that collaboration this year. But at least in preparation for Parking Day, but the whole Design for Distancing competition process was such that so much energy was put into that, and for such a greater cause. So that's very exciting that is actually being implemented. Just wanted to share one exciting detail. We still have this shade canopy that we went through a rebranding a few years ago, and our business cards were, we had lots of business cards available to us, so we made that a building material. So we had an in-house design competition to determine how to use that material, and we had about 20 people collaborate and come up with a system that was then hand thread together and became a shade canopy for our Parking Day. And so there's a lot more information out there than sort of these this brief presentation that we've made today. Definitely dig into the Design for Distancing Ideas guidebook. The Downtown Partnership of Baltimore, as well as Annapolis, have a lot of online resources for seeing how you can also implement some of these things where you are. The Parking Day Manual, which has been around for several years, is a great resource. And then we also have a blog series that we've been doing in how designers are responding to COVID-19 as well. So I think that we can open for questions.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Erik, Jen, and Anna. We really appreciate your input and sharing of resources and ideas. At this point, we still have about 10 minutes left, so we are opening it up to questions and answers. I'll be watching the chat both on Facebook and on Zoom to see if anyone submits a question. And I'll try to read those out and then pass them along to our panelists. So first question we have for Erik: how did you leverage the free parking in the garage? Was the garage city or privately owned? Erik, you're on mute.
There we go. In Annapolis, the garages are owned by the local governments. So we were able to have great support from our mayor, who was able to make those parking garages free during this time.
Wonderful. Next question I see for Design for Distancing options and parklets. After community build days, who maintains the spaces and the build outs? When Parking Day parklets are not in use, how and where are they stored?
I'll tackle that. The community district has signed on to handle the physical parts of maintenance in partnership with their design build team. So they'll come back out when things need maintaining. And BDC has set aside a maintenance budget so that there are funds available to the design build teams in the districts to work on that between now and June. Some of them need to be stored in off times, and some of them are built more semi-permanently in their space and don't need to be stored. The ones that need to be stored are usually ones that have movable chairs and tables. And so the districts have agreed upon where those chairs and tables get stored in the off hours. And it's really just a kind of whoever has the space per district to take those tables and chairs in at night. So it's a very wide variety of solutions on the storage piece of it.
Awesome, thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions at this time. So I just wanted to say thank you again to ASLA Maryland and AIA Baltimore for collaborating with us on this event. Thank you to our panelists once again for sharing your ideas and your expertise. I think we had a great range of ideas and perspectives shared. It was awesome to be able to talk about Annapolis and Baltimore and look at things from just the private sector and the public sector lens as well. If you are seeking CEUs, remember to complete the sign-in sheet and the quiz. The links for that have been posted on the chat in Zoom and also in the comments on Facebook. So if you missed the link, you could always go over to the Maryland ASLA Facebook page and grab it from the links on the Facebook page. Thank you everyone for joining us, and take care, stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.